What's one moment in your life that changed everything in your family?
I still wake up sometimes in a cold sweat, replaying that rainy Tuesday night in Seattle, the downpour hammering the windows like it was trying to drown out the mess my life had become. It was the kind of evening where the city lights blurred into a hazy glow, and I sat in my car outside the office for what felt like hours after my boss dropped the bomb. Sarah, it's not personal. Downsizing. You're out. 48 years old, 15 loyal years grinding away at that marketing firm, crafting campaigns that made million-dollar deals look easy, and just like that, a pink slip and a pat on the back. Severance? A measly 3 months' pay, barely enough to cover the mortgage on our house in the suburbs. But here's the real twist, the one that gnaws at me even now. I didn't breathe a word about my secret safety net to anyone. Not to my husband Mark, not to my bulldog of a dad Robert, nobody. I owned a chain of 6 thriving cafes scattered across the Pacific Northwest, from cozy corners in Seattle to that bustling spot in Portland with a killer view of the Willamette River. And tucked away in my name only? A sleek coastal condo in Cannon Beach, Oregon, bought outright 5 years ago with cash from some smart side investments in real estate and those early cafe profits. It was my hidden fortress, waves crashing just below the deck, a place I'd escape to when the corporate grind got too heavy. Why keep it under wraps? Pride, mostly. Or fear that flashing my success would make me the bossy wife, or the uppity daughter in their eyes. I'd built it all on late nights testing coffee blends and negotiating leases while they thought I was just another stressed-out exec chasing deadlines. I finally dragged myself home, the wipers thumping a somber rhythm, rehearsing the words in my head. Mark was sprawled on the couch in our living room, remote in hand, flipping through channels like the world hadn't shifted under my feet. "Honey," I said, dropping my bag by the door, "I got laid off today." He paused the TV, his face creasing into that familiar concern, sympathy mixed with a hint of relief, like he'd been waiting for an excuse to unload his own frustrations. "Laid off? Damn, Sarah, that's brutal. We'll get through it. Maybe this is a sign to slow down." We sat there, him squeezing my hand, me nodding along, but inside, my mind raced to the cafe's latest earnings report I'd checked that morning, steady 6 figures, enough to weather any storm. The condo? Untouched, a quiet asset appreciating by the month. But admitting that now would shatter the image they had of me as the dependable but not dazzling partner. No, I'd play it close, let the uncertainty simmer. Of course, family drama doesn't wait for you to catch your breath. I'd vented a bit to my sister earlier, and word flew straight to Dad like a homing pigeon. Robert Jenkins, 68 and built like the old Ford trucks he used to wrench on, called within the hour. "Get over here now. Can't hash this out over the phone." His voice was all gravel and command, the same tone that had pushed me through college and into that first job. So I drove the 40 minutes to his place in Tacoma, the rain turning the freeway into a slick nightmare, my windshield fogging from the heat of my own rising anxiety. He met me at the door, arms folded over his flannel shirt, eyes narrowing as we settled at his scarred oak table with mugs of instant coffee that tasted like regret. I laid it out, the meeting, the cuts, the hollow promises of references. He listened, then leaned in, his face hardening like cooling metal. "Laid off at your age? What you slacking? This family's no place for quitters." I swallowed hard, the words sticking in my throat about the chain, the condo, how they'd been my real anchors through mergers and burnout. Instead, I mumbled something about job hunting starting tomorrow. That did it. He shoved back from the table, chair scraping loud enough to echo. "Get out, Sarah. We don't keep losers around here. Go fix your mess before you drag us all down." Losers. The word landed like a slap, from the man who'd raised me alone after Mom bailed when I was 10, teaching me to hustle or starve. Rain pelted the windows as I stood, numb, grabbing my keys without a fight. Driving away, his porch light fading in the rearview, I felt the first real crack in my resolve. Back home, the house felt emptier than before. Mark was waiting, but not with open arms. He paced the kitchen, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Sarah, with the job gone, things are different. Lisa, you know, from the office, she's been a real support." I think I need to move out, see where this goes. Lisa. The sharp-dressed colleague with the perfect highlights and the laugh that grated on me during company picnics. 12 years of marriage, and he was trading me in like a depreciating asset. My chest tightened, but I forced a nod. If that's what you want. He packed a duffel that night, the zipper's rasp cutting through the silence, and left with a half-hearted "I'll call." Alone at last, I sank onto the couch, the rain a relentless drum outside, and poured a glass of the cheap Merlot we kept for guests. The Cafés app pinged on my phone, another solid day, baristas closing up without a clue their owner was unraveling. The Condo's listing popped up in my emails, not for sale, just a reminder of its value soaring. They thought I was down and out, a middle-aged casualty of the economy, but that ignorance was my edge. What came next? A slow burn of plans, the kind that would make Dad choke on his tough love and Mark regret every step toward Lisa's door. But as the clock ticked past midnight, a nagging doubt crept in. How long could I keep the mask on before it suffocated me, or worse, before someone started digging and unearthed it all? The morning after Mark left hit like a hangover without the fun part, sunlight slicing through the blinds onto an unmade bed that suddenly seemed too big for one person. I rolled over, staring at his empty pillow, the faint scent of his aftershave lingering like a bad joke. Our house in the Seattle suburbs, once buzzing with his weekend projects and my quick dinners, now echoed with every creak of the floorboards. I padded to the kitchen, brewed a pot of coffee from the generic store brand, nothing like the premium beans from my own Cafés, and scrolled through my phone, half expecting a regretful text from him. Nothing. Just a bill reminder for the car payment, which I'd been covering solo for months anyway. My secret chain of 6 spots was doing fine, I knew from the overnight reports. The Seattle flagship pulling in crowds with that new pumpkin spice twist, Portland humming along. And the Cannon Beach condo? Still there, my private slice of oceanfront peace, untouched and unmentioned. Hiding it all felt heavier now, like carrying water in a sieve, but spilling the beans would mean admitting I'd been playing small for too long. Why let them think I needed saving when I could orchestrate my own comeback? Calls started trickling in by mid-morning, the sympathy brigade activated through the grapevine. First was Elaine, my old sorority sister from back in our University of Washington days, her voice all warm concern over the line. "Sarah, honey, I heard about the layoff and Mark bailing. That's a double gut punch. Pack a bag and come crash at our place in Bellevue. We've got the guest room ready." I could picture her, efficient as ever in her real estate office, already mentally rearranging her schedule. Part of me wanted to say yes, to soak up the normalcy of couples' dinners and shared wine, but pride or stupidity kicked in. "Thanks, Elaine, but I'm good. Just need some space to sort this." Space. What a laugh. I had space all right, 6 Cafés worth, plus a condo that could host a small retreat. Next came my in-laws, Mark's parents from over in Everett, leaving a voicemail that dripped with awkward politeness. "We're here if you need anything, dear. Family sticks together." Sticks. Together? They'd never warmed to me much, always side-eyeing my career focus, but now it was all faux solidarity. I deleted it without replying, the isolation settling in like fog off the sound. "Dad?" Crickets, his get out still ringing in my ears, a rejection that cut deeper because it echoed the abandonment I'd felt when Mom split all those years ago. By afternoon, I couldn't shake the itch to dig, so I logged into our shared cloud account, password unchanged, his carelessness a small mercy. There they were, the emails, Mark and Lisa, threading back 3 months, her bubbly tone contrasting his whiny confessions. "Sarah's so wrapped up in her job, she doesn't get how stressed I am," he wrote once, followed by her reply, "Come over, let's unwind." "My place is empty tonight." Unwind. Right. The twist twisted harder when I saw attachments, photos of them at that waterfront bar in Pioneer Square, arms around each other, laughing like I was the punchline. And the finances, subtle transfers to her account, our joint savings dipping for gifts that screamed investment in their future. My stomach nodded, a mix of rage and ridiculous humor bubbling up. Mark, the guy who couldn't balance a checkbook, playing sugar daddy? It made me want to snort, But the vulgar edge of it all, the betrayal slithering into our life like an uninvited guest, left me pacing the living room. Friends kept texting pity emojis I ignored, my sister chiming in with Dad's worried but won't say it. Worried? More like smug in his judgment. That's when the spark hit, a petty but pointed plan forming over my third cup of coffee. Lisa's graphic design side gig, the one she boasted about at every office party, relied on a couple big clients in the tech scene. I knew from overheard chats that she'd cut corners on subcontracts, nothing huge but enough to raise flags. From a burner email account, easy enough to set up on my laptop, I fired off a tip to her main client's compliance team. Noticed some inconsistencies in vendor billing. Might want to audit. Vague, untraceable, just a nudge to make her world wobble. By evening, her LinkedIn lit up with vague updates about challenges, and I imagined her scrambling, that perfect poise cracking. It wasn't grand revenge, but it was mine, witty, from the shadows, a taste of the power they'd stripped away. Mark would feel the ripples soon enough, his support turning sour. As dusk fell, the house growing dim, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered, and Dad's gravelly voice filled the line. Sarah, enough sulking. Your sister's filling my head with how you're falling apart. Get over here tomorrow and prove you're not some failure we have to disown for good. Bring a plan or don't show. Prove it. The word hung like a dare, forcing my hand toward a risky edge. Do I keep hiding the cafes and condo, letting the abandonment fester, or crack the door open just enough to watch him reel? The line went dead, leaving me in the gathering dark, the weight of tomorrow pressing like an unpaid tab. Dad's call left me staring at my phone like it had grown teeth, the screen going dark in my hand as the evening shadows stretched across the empty living room. Tomorrow at his place, prove I'm not a failure, easy words for a man who'd never had to swallow his own pride. I poured another cup of that weak coffee, the steam curling up like unanswered questions, and sank into the armchair by the window, the Seattle skyline twinkling mockingly in the distance. Job hunting had become my daytime ritual, firing off resumes into the void of corporate email inboxes, but each rejection email landed like a pebble in a still pond, rippling out more doubt. Why bother with the charade when my cafes were the real lifeline? 6 spots, each with its own quirky charm. The one in Bellevue with the outdoor patio drawing families on weekends, Portland's riverside gem packing in techies for quick lunches. Profits ticked up steadily on my private dashboard, enough to float me indefinitely. And the Cannon Beach Condo, that hidden gem with its wraparound deck overlooking Haystack Rock? It sat quiet, a symbol of the independence I'd clawed for, bought with the grit Dad preached but never credited me for. Hiding it all started feeling like a bad habit, one that let everyone paint me as the victim when I held the paintbrush. Listeners to this mess might wonder why I'd drag it out. Why not march in tomorrow and lay my cards on the table? Stupid, sure, but part of me craved the slow unraveling, the chance to watch their faces when the truth hit. Morning came too soon, gray light filtering through the curtains as I dressed for Dad's inquisition. Simple slacks and a blouse, nothing flashy, to keep up the down-and-out act. The drive to Tacoma felt endless, rain spitting on the windshield, my mind replaying Mark's betrayal and Lisa's smug texts. Humor crept in unbidden. I imagined him fumbling through her minimalist kitchen, burning eggs because he never learned my tricks, or her dealing with his endless sports rants without my eye rolls to buffer. That light vulgar edge surfaced too, a bitter chuckle at how their passion probably fizzled fast once the novelty wore off, leaving them with nothing but awkward silences and shared regrets. Dad's house loomed ahead, the same squat rancher with the overgrown lawn, and I pulled up right on time, steeling myself for the grilling. He answered the door with a grunt, waving me to the kitchen table where coffee steamed in chipped mugs. My sister Karen was there too, perched on a stool, her face a mix of worry and curiosity. So, the plan? Dad barked, not bothering with hellos. I spread out a few printed job listings, faking enthusiasm about promising leads in marketing consulting. He snorted, scanning them like evidence in a trial. Consulting? That's code for scraping by. You gonna step up or keep leeching off memories of better days? Karen shot him a look, but I nodded, swallowing the urge to spill about the empire that could buy his house twice over. The visit dragged, tension thick as the humidity outside, ending with his half-hearted keep at it that felt more like a dismissal. Back home, the isolation hit harder, the house a echo chamber for my thoughts. I fired off another round of applications, landing an interview that afternoon at a mid-tier ad agency downtown. The recruiter, a kid barely 30 with a man bun and startup swagger, met me in a glass-walled conference room that screamed trendy but transient. I pitched my experience, the campaigns that had saved accounts, but his eyes glazed over midway. "We love your background, Sarah, but we're looking for fresh energy, you know? Digital natives. Fresh energy, translation, young and cheap." I smiled through it, but inside, frustration boiled, that smug dismissal making me want to flip the table and walk out with a parting shot about real-world grit. Driving away, I detoured to my favorite cafe, the one in Capitol Hill, slipping in as a regular to watch the baristas work their magic. The aroma of fresh roasts grounded me, a subtle reminder of my hidden control. Tom, the manager who'd been with me since day one, nodded from behind the counter, none the wiser to my ownership. "Rough day?" he asked as I ordered. I shrugged, but it sparked something, a need to push back. Mark's new setup with Lisa nagged at me, her design firm a thorn from the emails I'd uncovered. Turns out, she'd partnered with a small print shop for her projects, one-eyed for expansion. A quick call to my lawyer, disguised as routine business, and I put in a quiet offer to buy it out cash, no fanfare. By evening, it was mine, the rival folded seamlessly into my chain. The witty revenge? I'd route her next big order through it, jacking up unforeseen fees, just enough to pinch without tracing back. Petty? Maybe, but seeing her post about supplier headaches later that night gave me a grin, the kind that said payback's brewing slow and strong. Dad's doubt Mark's flight, they'd regret underestimating the woman in the shadows. As night deepened, my phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number, Tom, actually, from the cafe. "Sarah, odd call today. Some guy asking about property ties to your name, mentioned Jenkins' family. Sounded nosy. You okay?" My blood ran cold. Family snooping into my finances? Dad or Mark digging where they shouldn't? The condo records, the cafe holdings, if they unearthed it now, my careful game could crumble before the real show started. I set the phone down, heart pounding, the uncertainty coiling tighter as I wondered how deep their prying went and what bomb I'd have to defuse next. Tom's text about the nosy caller kept me up half the night, tossing in sheets that still carried Mark's scent, the house creaking like it was whispering warnings. Who was digging into my name, tying it to the Jenkins family? Dad, with his mechanic's suspicion of loose ends, or Mark trying to lawyer up for the divorce? I checked my secure accounts first thing, the cafe's holdings locked tight under a holding company, the Cannon Beach condo buried in layers of paperwork even I sometimes forgot. 6 locations, all pulling their weight, the Capitol Hill spot innovating with seasonal brews, Portland's steady flow from office crowds. It was my backbone, that quiet empire, but the threat of exposure turned every ping on my phone into a potential landmine. Why keep delaying the big reveal, letting the abandonment carve deeper scars? Folks hearing this might think I'm nuts, choosing silence over a swift smackdown, but rushing it felt like handing them the win, diffusing the tension before it could really sting. No, I'd wait for the perfect pitch, even if it meant more nights staring at the ceiling, humor my only shield, picturing Dad's face if he knew his loser daughter could buy his retirement fund outright. The next day dragged me into a whirlwind of precautions. I called my attorney mid-morning, voice low as if walls had ears, asking for a full sweep of public records. "Nothing out of the ordinary yet, Sarah," he said, but his paws hung heavy. "Keep an eye on family inquiries, they can trigger flags." Family. The word soured in my mouth. Karen texted soon after, inviting me to a casual lunch with her and the kids, her way of playing peacemaker. I went, the diner in Federal Way buzzing with midday chatter, but her questions probed like dental tools. "Dad's been weird, talking about helping with your finances. Said something about old property from Mom's side." Mom sighed. The condo's original seed money had come from a forgotten inheritance I'd invested wisely, away from Dad's oversight. I deflected with a laugh, tell him I'm handling it, no bailouts needed, but inside, the uncertainty coiled tighter, a dilemma forcing me to weigh confession against control. Lunch ended awkwardly, her hugging me goodbye with pity in her eyes, the kind that made me want to blurt everything just to see her jaw drop. Afternoon brought a curveball, an email from Mark's work address, forwarded through our old shared filter. It was the divorce papers, crisp and official, stamped with a lawyer's flourish and a note in his handwriting scanned onto the last page. Let's keep it amicable, Sarah. For old times. Amicable? After siphoning funds and shacking up with Lisa? I printed them out, spreading the pages across the kitchen table like a war map, spotting the twist in the fine print, requests for asset division that clawed at joint holdings, but slyly omitting anything solely in my name. Clever, but not clever enough. Digging deeper on my laptop, I pulled up bank logs I'd mirrored months ago, uncovering the full extent. Not just gifts to Lisa, but a hidden line of credit he'd maxed for her firm's expansion, collateralized against our home equity. Our home, the one I'd poured cafe profits into renovating while he golfed weekends away. Rage simmered, laced with that dark humor, Mark, the king of bad investments, betting our nest egg on her fleeting charm. The light vulgarity of it all hit me, him playing high roller when he'd once forgotten our anniversary because work ran late. Friends started weighing in too, Elaine calling with gossip. Heard Mark's in-laws are thrilled, but your dad's telling everyone you're rebuilding from rock bottom. Rock bottom. If only they knew the view from my secret perch. Revenge sharpened my focus, targeting Dad this time for the snooping threat. He'd always lorded his investment savvy over family gatherings, peddling tips on volatile stocks to uncles and cousins like gospel. From my anonymous online alias, I crafted a newsletter, styled as a consumer watchdog alert, detailing red flags on the exact schemes he favored, complete with fabricated but plausible case studies of mechanics burned by bad advice. Blasted to his email list, the one I'd glimpsed at his house, it landed like a silent grenade. By evening, Karen called in a panic. Dad's losing it. Clients canceling, yelling about sabotage. What the heck's going on? I feigned surprise, but the satisfaction bloomed, a witty jab at his pride without a direct hit. He'd regret those loser words when his own foundations wobbled, all while my cafés thrived unchecked. Twilight settled as I cleaned up the papers, the house dimming with the fading light, when the doorbell rang sharp, insistent. I peered through the peephole, Mark, disheveled in a wrinkled shirt, rain dripping from his hair. Sarah, please, let me in. We need to talk. My pulse raced, the conflict peaking as he spilled on the porch. Lisa's crazy, the job's stressing me out. I made a mistake. Come back to me. His eyes searched mine, pleading, but as he shifted, his phone buzzed in his pocket, audible, insistent. I caught a glimpse when he pulled it out, a text preview from her. Miss you tonight. Don't forget the papers. Papers? The divorce ones, or something deeper, like forged docs to claim more than a share? Reconciliation dangled like bait, but the betrayal's full shadow loomed, forcing me to decide if this was a genuine crack or the setup for a bigger fall. The door hung ajar, rain pattering, the impending storm of truth electric in the air. Mark's plea on the doorstep lingered like smoke after a fire, his rain-soaked figure silhouetted against the porch light as I weighed letting him in or slamming the door on 12 years of half-truths. Sarah, please, he pressed, voice cracking with that mix of desperation and calculation I'd come to recognize. The text from Lisa still burned in my mind, a preview of deceit that hinted at more than just cold feet, maybe a ploy to sweet-talk me into signing over assets before the divorce finalized. I stepped aside, gesturing him into the kitchen, the air thick with unspoken accusations. He shook off his jacket, rambling about how Lisa's drama had soured everything, how the office buzzed with her fallout from that supplier mess I'd nudged along. Humor edged in despite myself. I pictured him dodging her yoga retreats, fumbling apologies while she iced him out. You miss the stability, I said dryly, pouring coffee for us both, strong brew from my private stash, a subtle nod to the empire. He never knew. He nodded eagerly, spinning tales of regret, but as he leaned in for a hug, his phone buzzed again, screen lighting up with her name. I glimpsed the message, sign the addendum tonight or we're done. Addendum? My blood chilled. A quick glance at the divorce papers on the table confirmed it, clauses pushing for a bigger slice of the house equity, timed perfectly to catch me off guard. The betrayal's full twist uncoiled. He'd been playing both sides, using reconciliation as cover to lock in his gains while Lisa waited in the wings. Get out, I said finally, voice steady, shoving the papers toward him. We're done pretending. He left sputtering, the door clicking shut like a lock turning on the past. Karen's text started the next morning, relentless. Family barbecue at Dad's this weekend. Come. He wants to make amends. Amends? After the snooping, the judgments? But the invitation dangled like a thread to pull, a stage for the unmasking I'd delayed too long. Why go through with it, letting the hurt simmer when I could ghost them all and sail into my cafe's horizon? Listeners might shake their heads at my choice, seeing the self-sabotage in drawing out the pain, but closure demanded a spectacle, one that would etch regret into their bones. I spent the days prepping quietly, emails to my attorney locking down the condo sale, a video link ready for the chain's board meeting. The 6 cafes thrummed on, reports showing a banner week with holiday buzz building, my coastal retreat appraised at double what I'd paid. Dad's investment fallout had rippled too. Karen mentioned him canceling plans, grumbling about bad luck, the witty sting of my anonymous alert still fresh. Light vulgarity colored my thoughts. Him, the tough guy, reduced to pacing his kitchen over lost tips, while Mark nursed his ego bruises from Lisa's cold shoulder. Sunday arrived muggy for Seattle standards, the backyard at Dad's filling with relatives, aunts fussing over potato salad, cousins chasing kids on the grass, the grill smoke carrying that familiar char scent. I showed up last, in a simple sundress, carrying a bottle of wine as camouflage. Dad manned the burgers, his nod gruff, but eyes softer, like the scandals had humbled him. Glad you came, he muttered, flipping patties. Mark arrived fashionably late, alone, shooting me hopeful glances that I ignored. Karen herded us to tables as plates filled, conversation skirting the elephants, my job search, his single life. Then Dad cleared his throat, the air shifting. Sarah, about what I said, the loser bit. Heat of the moment. I've been thinking on my messes too. Messes. The opening I needed. Before I could respond, he plunged in. That snooping on your records? Tried to help, thought you were sinking. Turns out, some old ties from your mom's estate flagged the Cannon Beach place. Didn't know it was yours, thought it was family holdover I could leverage for you. Mom's estate, the twist I'd half suspected, her hidden windfall that I'd turned into the condo without his knowledge, a secret he'd buried deeper than I realized. Gasps rippled, Mark's face paled, piecing it together. I set down my fork, the moment ripe. Leverage? Like you did with your investments, Dad? Or how Mark here siphoned our savings for Lisa's dreams? I pulled up my phone, sharing the bank logs first, proof of his theft, the addendum plot exposed. Relatives murmured, turning on him as he stammered denials. Dad's turn next. Your clients bailed because of bad advice, not sabotage. But maybe it's karma for kicking me out. The barbecue deflated, tension crackling like the dying coals. Enough half-truths, I said, voice carrying. Drive with me tomorrow. To the condo. See what a loser built. They agreed, wary, the hook set. The next day, we piled into cars for the 3-hour trek to Cannon Beach, waves greeting us like old friends as I unlocked the door to the sunlit space, vaulted ceilings, ocean views stretching endless. Dad whistled low, Mark gawked, Karen's eyes widened. This is yours? Dad asked, tracing the granite counters. I nodded, firing up the video call to my board. Sold today, I announced as the realtor joined virtually, papers signing live. And the cafes? 6 of them, my chain from Seattle to here. Profits that kept me afloat while you wrote me off. The room froze, regrets crashing like the surf below. Dad sank into a chair, whispering apologies for Mom's secrets and his harshness. Mark begged forgiveness, Lisa long gone in the fallout. Karen hugged me, tears mixing with awe. But as we drove back, the condo keys handed off, I felt the ambiguity settle. Did I want them back in my life, or was the freedom sweeter alone? Their regrets echoed in the rearview, a forever scar, but my path. Forked wide open, expand the empire, or vanish to new shores. The waves whispered no answers, leaving the what-ifs to haunt us all.